AMA Resources is a Miami-based company revolutionizing the natural resources sector. They recently tokenized a mineral reserve in Brazil containing 596 tons of gold, which has been validated by an SEC standard SK 1300 certification. That's a mouthful, but anyway, this specific validation ensures every nugget of information about mineral resources and reserves is accurate and economically solid. So let's explore the next frontier in asset tokenization of gold and minerals with Adrian Gallo. He is the head of product and market development at AMA Resources.
And through tokenization, you can unlock the value without even taking the mineral underground, with all the benefits for the environment. This mineral reserve in Brazil has 596 tons of gold. If you multiply this by the price of the gold, you get around $42 billion. The idea of gold is to store value, but we can still store value and live in the gold underground where it belongs. So through tokenization, we can do that. And this is what motivates me to provide this service. That particular mineral reserve has another 300 tons of gold to be discovered. And this is important to understand because from the investor perspective, you get automatically 6x just by extracting the gold. Back then I was working for an investment bank and I had some clients who were approached by a crypto project from the US. And this project wanted to purchase their lands in exchange of coins. It's a popular project in the US. So I doing my research and offering this crypto project to my clients, I found that Ernesto Bernadette was one of the investors of this project. So I contacted him. We discussed a lot about this project. We didn't like the tokenomic, the model they took. So they decided to start. So we decided, to start our own project and tokenizing real world assets the way we want it, actually in the traditional way. Ernesto is a miner. He has been a miner for the last 20 years or so. He's the founder and CEO of AMA Resources, who's also a US-based mining company who owns a lot of mineral reserves in Latin America, in Argentina, in Brazil, in Uruguay. So I approached him with the idea of start tokenizing their mineral reserves, but not just creating or experimenting a different model. So we decided to actually tokenize the mineral reserves the way it was already being done in traditional finance. And let me explain. So there are a lot of projects right now tokenizing any kind of real world asset. But the problem is that when you create coins out of thin air, this is not sustainable long term. And we decided to just tokenize the reserve as it is with a legal entity using a special purpose vehicle or a corporation or a liability company, and then tokenize the securities. It's the way that it's been done, basically. We are not creating anything. We just use crypto as a vehicle, as a step further in securitization. Mm-hmm. So crypto is the innovation to securitization, actually. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned you're not just taking something out of thin air and creating a token. This exactly. is the exact definition of real world asset tokenization. There is something backing it, and what you're backing it with is gold.
Let me tell you something. I joined crypto around February 2017. And what brought me into crypto was, what blew my mind actually, was the possibility of using crypto to tokenize any real world asset. Just already in 2017, I had this idea, and so since then I've been looking for the proper asset to tokenize, so to say. Mm-hmm. So I started my own company in Switzerland with two partners, and we try to develop a platform so anyone in the world could create their own investment fund and add to their portfolios any tokenized asset. But the problem was that back then it was too early to do it. The technology was not ready, the regulation wasn't ready either. But right now it is the right moment. We have a lot of providers of tokenization platform. It's easy to create the tokens. It's also there's more clarity about regulations around tokenized
So,
hardware.
so you have two projects. You have Project Supernova in Brazil, which has already been tokenized, and then you have Project Barda Gonzalez Copper in Argentina, which is ready to be tokenized, I assume. Have you done any tokenization with that yet?
Yeah, actually, we have a lot of other reserves as well. We only tokenize proven mineral reserves. In mining, you need to prove that you have the minerals underground. For that, you need to perform, of course, a lot of explorations, geophysics studies with satellites and labs, etc. But once you do that and you follow the standards of leading countries as Canada or the US, you get a technical report, such as the NI 43101 or the SK 1300. These are the technical report accepted by finance, right? By the financial. So once we have this value, we can tokenize the mineral reserve. Otherwise, we cannot know how many reserves there are underground. For all these mineral reserves, we already have these certificates, so we could tokenize. We decided to start with Supernova, which actually are two mines combined in Brazil. So we took two mines and combined it into one project called Supernova, which is already tokenized. Yes, actually, and the mine has 596 tons of gold ready to be extracted. And let me explain why or how we tokenize the mineral reserve. We transfer this asset to a new entity in the US and simply tokenize the shares of this entity. So investors purchasing these tokens actually become shareholders of this company and benefit not only on the rise of gold, for example, but also if we perform new exploration and discover more minerals underground. It's like any other shares, but tokenized. And this is way more attractive than just buying gold. You have Paxos, Texos, and a lot of others tokenizing gold. But this gold is already out of the ground and it's on banks' boards. But we are not tokenizing just the gold. We are tokenizing the mineral reserve.
Tokenizing what?
The mineral reserve. So we are not creating
Mineral reserves. Okay.
We are not creating commodity tokens. We are creating security tokens, actually.
Security tokens. Absolutely. Yes. Okay. Yes. I understand that in your field of mining, that there are a lot of challenges regards to, liquidity and, landowners not having capital to be able to perform explorations and government involvement. So maybe we can talk a little bit about some of the challenges and how when you tokenize, that is able to bring a solution to those challenges. So maybe we'll talk about the illiquidity first and, fractionalization.
Actually, the reason why we decided to start with this project is to help miners get some early liquidity and unlock the value they have, because these people have been holding a high value asset for so many years, but they cannot take advantage of it. Through tokenization, they can unlock this value and use the tokens. They can, of course, sell the tokens, but they can also use the token while holding as, for example, guarantees in financial institutions to perform any financial transaction as collateral. And we are developing this market as well. So we try to help miners, but also we try to provide investors the opportunity to invest in these mineral reserves, which before was really difficult to enter because you only had the Toronto Stock Exchange, for example, to buy shares of mining companies listed on this exchange. But now with tokens and with so many crypto exchanges, regulated by the way, crypto exchanges popping up everywhere, we can reach investors all over the place, right? In not only in Canada.
As far as the challenges of the governments, how does that work with you being in South America?
Yeah, well, this has a lot of angles, right? This question, but to make it short, we are aware that we are issuing security tokens. So once because we are issuing security token, we have to accommodate to security regulations, right? So this company is in the US, and we are following all the US regulations in regards to issuing securities, to listing in exchange. We cannot just list these tokens in any exchange. It has to be regulated, etc. Our priority right now is to tokenize as many mineral reserves as possible to create the products. And
Okay.
then
you're providing a platform for these owners of these mines who don't know how to make them liquid, and then you're fractionalizing them, so a lot more investors worldwide can take advantage of this. Is that correct?
Yeah, through our platform, investors can easily select or decide where to invest in our mines. They will see everything, all the key information about the mine, documentation. They can even check all the certificates that I mentioned before. They can audit the asset if they want. And that's the idea of using blockchain as well. Everything needs to be transparent. But because we are dealing, again, with security tokens, we need to keep the registry of our shareholders. And this is something we need to comply no matter where we are, because regulations are more or less the same in the world. But the good thing, we have the assets. We are not just a tokenization provider. We tokenize, but most important, we manage the asset post tokenization. Because if you have a mineral reserve, once it's tokenized and the property ownership is fractionalized, you need somebody to take care of this asset, to maintain, to pay the canon to the government, to perform explorations. And AMA Resources does this for the benefit of all token holders.
Right now, you have tokenized, and you have proven that you have gold in your mine. And so, how are you? So, once the investors are purchasing the tokens, that money is going towards actually mining the gold. Is that the way it works?
The way it works, yes. Mm-hmm. If they buy the tokens, of course, the money goes to the treasury of Supernova, which is the legal entity holding the asset. This money will be used to perform explorations, because we infer that particular mineral reserve has another 300 tons of gold to be discovered. Mm-hmm. An investor, because mining is super complex to understand. It's not like the asset has a value and that's it. Remember that minerals are underground, and these technical reports try to measure the amount of mineral underground. But depending on the level of infrastructure built on the surface, and also the advance of the exploration and exploitation, the value of the asset gets closer to the value of the total reserve. And let me explain. This mineral reserve in Brazil has 596 tons of gold. If you multiply this by the price of the gold, you get around $42 billion in value. But the in situ value in mining is the value we give to the asset at the present. It's like more or less a discounted cash flow. So we decided to set that value at 10% of the total value. That's why our tokenized asset worth $4.2 billion, right? But the moment we start exploring and exploiting the mine, this 10% goes up to 60%. And once you extract all the gold, you get around 60% of the value I mentioned before. That's it, because you have to discount the cost of extracting the gold. So if you extract all the gold, you get more or less 60% of the total value. And this is important to understand, because from the investor perspective, you get automatically 6x just by extracting the gold. You also benefit if the gold price goes up, like it's already happening. Also, if we find more gold, you get also a rise in your return of an investment by quantity, not just by an increase in price, because you have more mineral in the same asset. You get what I mean?
So, what is the mechanism by which you can tell how much gold is in the ground? For those of us who have no idea about, how this
Yeah.
discovery works, how do we know that there's really gold down there?
Yeah, and before answering that question, let me explain why we decided to tokenize the mineral reserve and not just the gold.
Okay.
Because we could have just tokenized the gold underground, and this could be a commodity token because once we extract the gold, we have the gold. By the way, this gold is from 91 to 96 finesse or purity. So it's not, then you need to refine the gold and you get the beautiful bars that you see in the bank. But this gold has a problem. We have a measure, an estimate measure certified by this geologist telling us there is an X amount of gold. But of course, we need to be aware that we have a margin of error, right? Could be 10%. This is one problem. We don't have the exact quantity of the gold underground, but also we don't have a market for it. We don't have the price of how much is the price of the gold underground. We don't have supply and demand as we have with gold on the surface being traded in markets. So it's easier for us to tokenize the mineral reserve, and it's also more attractive. And sorry, I had to explain this because I have a lot of people asking, are you tokenizing gold? No, we are not tokenizing just the gold. We are tokenizing the asset with the gold in it. And this is important. And how you prove, investors would be able to check the certificates that I mentioned, the SK 1300, and it's 200 pages, signed by geologists, following the standard of the US. And this is what actually the financial sector uses and the stock exchange as well. So this is already known in mining. This is the only document that proves how many gold or how many mineral it's underground. There's no other way, and this is done by a lot of studies, geophysics, geologists with satellites, labs, etc.
So you have invested a lot of your own money to be able to just get to this position. And I assume it's taken a lot of time and a lot of, paperwork. How long would that take you to just work on that section of it for one particular mine?
Okay, now I'm going to speak from AMA because I work for them, but
Yes.
AMA, Ernesto, owns a lot of mineral reserve since a lot of years. So he already has these reports. And this takes a lot of money because you need to perform a lot of explorations. So we are going to tokenize these own mineral reserves, but we also join forces with other miners who already have these technical reports, but they don't have the expertise or they don't have the money to keep going. So we join forces and tokenize together. And this is actually the case we took with Supernova, this group of Brazilian entrepreneurs, it was a company actually, merged with Ernesto, and they decided to join on this venture and collaborate, because Ernesto has a lot of expertise mining, a team working for it, working like me, working developing the secondary market as well. So it's not like we hold all the reserves. We try to also collaborate with other miners in this situation to give them a solution, because most have liquidity problems. And if you don't perform exploration, you have the risk of the government taking the concession out. I mean, you need to explore from time to time.
You have registered under Reg D, correct?
Yeah.
506B and 506C, which means that it is offered to U.S. accredited investors, the sophisticated investors, and also non-U.S. investors, correct? It's open to anyone.
Yeah, because we are issuing security tokens. Actually, we cannot just perform a security token offering without being listed on the Security and Exchange Commission. But we can perform a private offering to private investors, and that's why what we are doing right now to get capital to allocate this capital in all these operations we have in mind. And that's why we are following this regulation D in the US, regulation D 506 C and D, where we can offer these security tokens to private investors. But they need inside the US, they need to be accredited or sophisticated, and out of the US, they don't need to be so. So
you know what's interesting?
Sorry.
These words that you used, accredited and sophisticated, the SEC has made these rules up of, who can be accredited, and it's basically based on how much money you have in the bank. But that doesn't necessarily mean that these people are sophisticated just because they have some money in the bank, right? So I love the way that the tokenization is fractionalizing to allow a lot of other investors to invest who would never have this opportunity to invest in this high grade gold like this, right? And now I don't know if you've heard about, there is a test that you can take, which is administered by FINRA to become accredited. So even if you're not making, even if you don't have assets that equal $1 million, or you're making 200,000 a year as an individual, you can go and take this test. So you can have a lot more individuals who are accredited through this test invest in your company.
Yeah, well, I've been in finance since 2017, actually. I love finance, and I'm not against regulation, by the way. I approach regulation, but you and me know that sometimes regulation goes beyond they have to go. But anyway, we can also try to approach investors out of the US with less requirement, because we are, in a way, a startup, and we cannot fulfill all the requirements. Super expensive also to create a prospectus to investors right away. So we need capital to do that, and we will do that. But for the beginning, we are just simply starting with a private placement. Of course, we are gonna register this private placement, and that's why we only aim to raise $30 million with this. But remember that these are huge assets. The value, all of these assets has a value of $1 billion. So we need a lot of capital to keep going. Sorry, I would like to speak about so many things, because people need to understand that. And this is something personal. Even before joining crypto, I was scammed 3 times just by investing my money. And when I
were scammed, you said?
Yes.
You were scammed 3 times? Okay.
Yeah. So when I found out about crypto, it blew my mind. The fact that you could keep control of my money, etc. Like it happened to all of us. But then I saw crypto being like invaded by all these people who just come and grab some money. So it's infected. And with Ernesto, what we try to do is to provide actual value to miners and investors, because the idea is here to add value to the industry. And that's why I clarify this is something personal. I love finance, traditional finance, crypto, etc. But I don't pursue the money. I pursue great stuff. And it's sad to see people just come into crypto and with the goal of grabbing some money from investors. So yeah, regulations are cool, but you and me know that even by following regulation, there are people scamming people and investors losing the money. So what keeps me chill in a way is that we took the traditional way of tokenizing assets. We are not creating tokens out of thin air. If you have a mineral reserve and you decide to tokenize with us, we tokenize and all the tokens belongs to you. I mean, we are not keeping tokens like other projects likes to do. No. And then we add a service to you because the idea is to give you a solution. That's what we are trying to do with our resources.
You have an initial amount of 30 million tokens, is that correct? That you have ready to distribute?
The assets value at the moment of tokenization was actually $4.1 billion. The in situ value I mentioned it before was $4.1 billion. So they created, the lawyers of Supernova created 4.1 billion shares of the company, and then we created 4.1 billion tokens, legally binded to the shares. That's why each token worth $1 in assets. That's the price of the asset. Right now, it's higher because the gold went higher. If you do the math, it's more or less 1.09. But we are selling this at 1 because we need liquidity. By the way, I don't want to promote the token here. It's just explaining where the value is coming from to the token.
It's interesting how you've gotten to this period because, talking about the tokenomics, how you came to how many tokens you want to distribute and what the value is going to be, and the fact that gold is going up and down, and that's a lot of planning to do. So how did you go through that? Do you have a lawyer who's worked on this before, who has done token issuances, or have you just sort of gathered your team and put your brain together and say, this is what we need to do?
No, actually, there is no tokenomic. The tokenomic resembles the economy of the token, and we are simply tokenizing the asset. So if the asset worth $1,000 and you have 1,000 tokens, it's simply each token worth $1. It's not like we create an X amount of tokens for our treasury to use in DeFi, etc., like I used to, because this is not my first project. But for this case, we are simply tokenizing an asset. So tokens are just there, and the quantity of tokens resemble the value of the asset. And there's no much thinking on this. Each token, $1. We have 4.1 billion tokens, the asset worth 4.1 billion tokens. If the asset goes up in value, as a consequence, the token goes up in value, independently of the price in the market by supply and demand. It's like it happened with shares in the stock exchange. You have the hypothetical value coming from the balances of the company and then the price of the market based on supply and demand, speculation, etc. So we simply decided to go this way because we cannot experiment with these assets. We cannot. They're too
I see. So that it's very simple model. You're not putting any governance into this or voting rights, or you're not working on, staking or anything like that. It is just, this is the value.
Yeah, and we aim to give these tokens utility. But how? I mentioned it before that token holders would be able, of course, to sell, but then they could also use the tokens as guarantees, as collateral for financial transactions. Like it's already been done with the whole certificate. Right now, if you have an NI 43101, you can use it. It's a guarantee. You can use it in a bank, for example. But then with us, you could be able to use a portion of it through tokens. You go allocate an X amount of tokens because they are recognized as guarantees. And this is the whole purpose. We are aware that we cannot just go to the market and sell 4 billion in assets. I mean, I follow crypto all day long. I know that market cap of a project of 4 billion is a lot of money, and we are realistic. We try to provide the token also utility. Yes, we will provide in the future staking feature, etc. But our priority right now it's targeting financial investors or institutional investors, sorry, to approach a bigger scale, right? And then in the future approach retails as well.
There is utility built in, possibly using it as collateral, maybe staking, yielding. Do you have any other incentive plans to, encourage the token holders? Maybe loyalty, rewards, anything like that?
Well, it's planned, but I want to be honest. Right now, we don't have more than simply becoming shareholders of a company with so much potential. Why? Because this mineral reserve, we infer to find more gold. We infer to extract the gold in the future. Next year, this mine will be operating. So we will extract the gold. Once we extract the gold, the in situ value goes up significantly. We also can sell this mineral reserve to a third party who will pay a premium, like it happens. So all this benefit goes in the end to shareholders and token holders. These token holders are shareholders. So I like to think that way. So who buys this token needs to understand that he's simply investing in this company. And we have all the documentation, of course, ready to share. And in regards to private placement, we have a cap of $30 million inside the US. Outside there, we don't have any cap. And about the features, of course, I'm coming from crypto, so I love to provide staking features, etc. We will do that. We are planning to create another token, but this is a utility token from AMA, who will give us present the minerals we extract from the mine. We don't have simply gold. In Argentina, we have several mines with copper, with cobalt, with platinum, a lot of minerals. It's fascinating. It's fascinating how many minerals are underground. In fact, there are way more minerals underground than out of the ground.
I can certainly believe that. It's like I picture this, the picture of the iceberg where you only see a little tip of the iceberg, at the top, and then underneath there's so much more. And I kind of look at companies who are mining as explorers and people who are setting and going out and being bold and setting up a new frontier, and they're not afraid to take these steps. And that's kind of how I see this particular company, AMA. And what is it? Understanding what security tokenization of real world assets. What does that mean to you when all of a sudden the light bulb went on and you thought, oh my gosh, I can use this in so many places? I mean, what was that moment for you?
So, like the intro I gave you, once I met Ernesto, I said, Ernesto, we shouldn't talk, because let me explain. There's a project, I won't name it, but there's a project purchasing assets with their own coin, but they are only using 20% of the coins to buy the assets. And they claim to issue an asset-backed token, but in fact, it's only backed by 20%. They created another 20% for themselves. That's creating tokens out of thin air. And they created another 60% of the tokens to invest in startups. And they are promoting this project all over the place in the US. I don't like this model because this is diluting the asset of those swapping the asset to these coins. They are promoting an asset-backed token and it's not backed at all. It's only backed by 15%. We are backing the whole asset. The whole tokens with the asset. We are not creating. And this is what I love. This is why we started doing this and thought we should do this. But we have two ways. Commodity tokens by tokenizing the mineral, or security tokens, tokenizing the security of the legal entity holding the asset. And we decided to follow the second option because it's way more attractive to investors. Because if you buy gold, you only benefit by an increase in the price of gold. if you buy security tokens, you benefit for all the reasons I gave you before. To me, it's way more attractive. And I know for people, because we are talking with investors all day long, and they like the model. Of course, there are a lot of challenges, but if you follow the rules, there are not so many challenges. But in the future, when you see BlackRock or Vanguard, all these funds or companies tokenizing bonds, etc., it's coming. Liquidity is coming to security, and crypto will be regulated, and it's good. It's good that it's been regulated.
Yeah, I see, there's liquidity on a primary issuance level, and then there's, a certain type of liquidity there. But then on the secondary market, that brings a totally different type of liquidity. And now that we're speaking, what is the date today? June 26, 2024. If we are going to be talking again in 6 months, I bet you that the story is going to change. And the way that you're talking about the available liquidity is going to change. So, this is not, tokenization is not a magic bullet that all of a sudden, you're going to see all this liquidity, but it is a tool, right?
To me, it is the next step of securitization. In the past, if you had an asset and you wanted to securitize, the vehicle to do that was a company initially. So you transfer the asset to the company, and then you have the shares. Then we have this trust or special purpose vehicles, which allow to do the same stuff but easier, without so many bureaucracy, so to say, or regulations. Now we have tokenization. It is the same thing. The idea is to fractionalize the ownership. That's it. And that's the feature I love about crypto. And this is, I wouldn't say the only feature I like about crypto, but it's the only feature that to me, it makes sense. Because we have lending, we have staking, etc. But that already works in traditional finance. We can do the same in DeFi without intermediaries. But then, as an investor, to be honest, I tested all the networks in a lot of protocols and a lot of DeFi apps. And even now, I don't have the courage to just put my money in them. So I test them, but I don't feel comfortable to allocate my portfolio or my whole capital into DeFi. I may be wrong, but this is something that needs to change in somehow. We tokenize on Ethereum, not in layer 1, in layer 2, but we use a standard, not the ERC20, we use the ERC4336, which adds compliance at the token level. This is the right standard to tokenize securities, actually.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you that.
The idea right now is to increase the value of the asset through exploration. So if I were an investor, I would just simply hold, because this will increase in value, or it's supposed to be increasing value. I don't like to say this in public. We are supposed to increase the value of the asset for the benefit of our shareholders.
Boy, we've covered a lot.
It's a topic that I'm passionate about this.
There's so much to say, isn't there? I mean, we can go on and on forever.
One thing I haven't said before, even knowing Ernesto, remember I told you about my clients, they were miners as well, but not at the level of Ernesto from AMA. And I saw they were facing the same issue. They don't have liquidity, they cannot maintain their mineral reserve. On the other side, I'm coming from the investing side. And I know that a lot of investors would like to invest in gold, but gold that is not extracted, because once you extract the gold is there. But what is the logic of extracting the gold and putting the gold in a bank if you could just simply leave the gold underground? This is something, of course, personal that I like, that to me doesn't make any sense to extract the gold and put it in a vault of a bank and leave it there. It doesn't make sense. Yes, we have gold there because most gold is stored by central banks, etc. It's not used to make watches or years. The idea of gold is to store value, but we can still store value and leave in the gold underground where it belongs. So through tokenization, we can do that. And this is what motivates me to provide this service. Yeah, of course, we can extract the gold, and we will extract the gold in some cases. But in most cases, we don't need to until we need. So that's the advantage of, if you tokenize, I don't know, a farm or grains or cows. I mean, the assets are already there, but the particular case of mineral resources, you have the minerals underground. So you have the value there, and through tokenization, you can unlock the value without even taking the mineral underground, with all the benefits for the environment that it means.
That is huge. I mean, if that was just only one benefit alone of tokenization, and we've talked about many benefits, but traditionally, you would have to mine that and put it into these beautiful gold bars to have value. But you're saying you don't need to do that with tokenization.
You don't, because you have the gold underground. Of course, it's not the same quality of the gold out of the ground, but it has a lower price. And this is defined based on the quality of the gold, the purest of the, how to say in English, the purest, or the finest of the gold, but still has a value. It's not like it's worth 20% of the gold. It's worth more or less the same. You need to discount the percentage that is not refined. Okay, you can discuss this with Ernesto in more detail, but the idea is that you still can store value in these minerals. And the beauty of Latin America, where I'm coming from, that is most mineral reserves are not explored. We have so many minerals, it's so rich, this part of the country, and it's not explored at all. In Brazil, everything is huge. You can imagine. And so we focus for the moment on this part of the planet because we have a lot to entertain ourselves.
Okay. Yes, we know that there's a lot of rich mines that need to be explored in South America. It sounds like there's a lot more to your company than we are uncovering here. And today we were just really focusing on tokenizing your assets. And actually, you let us know that we are tokenizing, or the tokens represent the company. So, and within an SPV, which is something very important for other companies who are looking to tokenize, it is the SPV that is being tokenized. So investors own a part of the company.
Exactly. For each mine, we will use a different legal entity. It could be an SPV, it could be a company, could be a trust. For Supernova, we have decided to use an LLC in the US, but for others, we will use another legal entity in another jurisdiction. This depends also on the wishes of the owner of the property, of the mineral reserve. And but investors investing in our tokens could decide through our platform where to invest, and they will see everything. So they will log into our platform and see Supernova, it is this price, it has this amount of gold, we will do this and this operations, and etc. And next one will be EMPA, and etc. And we have so many other properties because we want to target all the mineral reserves in Latin America. Simply because we are not just tokenizing the asset.
Well, I congratulate you on your endeavor. Said the AMA team and everyone for being brave and bold and actually, taking the first steps and being one of the first in your industry and leading your industry. Where can people contact you?
They can check our website. We have an email there to be contacted. If they are minor, they can also contact us, so we can provide all our services. If they are investors, they should contact. We will contact them back.
I really appreciate you talking to us today, and I know that this will reach a lot of people, especially in your industry, who cannot figure out how to make their assets liquid. You're paving a way, so congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we try to do our best with this project and provide investors an alternative to allocate a portion of portfolios in more stable assets, but cooler in a way because they would be invested in shares and not in simply gold, tokenized gold. So thank you for this interview, right?
You're very welcome. I'm sure we'll talk to each other again.
Yeah, looking forward.
Okay, bye, Adrian.
Bye-bye.